If you know someone you love, maybe a parent, a grandparent, a spouse, and you feel they may be entering the final stage of life, then please don't look away. This video isn't fiction. It's not clickbait, and it's not about drama. What I'm about to share is painfully real, and it comes from the quiet, sacred front lines of hospice care. This isn't about fear. It's about understanding, about preparation, and most of all, about honoring the most intimate human moments we'll ever witness. And I'll be honest with you, as a man, as a son, and as someone who sat beside a hospital bed trying to hold back tears, this was one of the hardest stories I've ever heard. But it changed how I see death, forever, so I hope you'll hear it the way I did. A few months ago, I sat down with a hospice nurse named Carla. She's been doing this work for nearly 2 decades, walking people through the final seasons of life, holding hands that are letting go, listening to last words whispered in trembling voices, witnessing final breaths with a kind of reverence only those who've seen many endings can truly understand. And during our conversation, she told me something that stayed with me ever since. She said, in her soft, steady voice, that there are signs, subtle, quiet signs, clues really, that often begin to appear in the last year of life, not the last days, not the final hours. An entire year before the end. We see them over and over again, she told me. And yet, families miss them. Not because they're careless, but because no one ever tells them what to look for until it's too late. So today, I want to share with you 6 of those signs, just the way she shared them with me. And if anything I say reminds you of someone you love, if something I mention touches a place deep inside you, I hope you'll take a moment to comment just one word. Yes. That small word tells the rest of us we're not alone. That the moment you're in, or the memory you carry, matters to more people than you might imagine. And before I reveal the first sign, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. We're building something here, a place where stories like this aren't hidden in silence, but shared out loud in honor of those we love. This might not feel like a video for you today, but one day, it might be the one you come back to. Carla looked me in the eye, calm and steady, and said, "The first thing we notice isn't physical, it's emotional." And I remember that moment clearly because it surprised me. We expect aging to show up in the body first, but Carla explained something deeper. She said people begin to withdraw from the world, and often they don't even realize they're doing it. She described how patients who used to laugh easily and light up a room slowly begin to grow quiet, not depressed, not broken, just more inward, more distant. They don't make as many phone calls. They cancel lunch plans. They start saying no to birthday parties and church services and even Sunday dinners. And sometimes they stop answering the door entirely, even when it's someone they love. It's like they're gently stepping back, she told me. Not out of fear, not out of sadness, but out of peace. It's like they're starting to get used to the idea of not being here anymore. I asked her, "Does that scare families?" She nodded, all the time, but they don't usually recognize it for what it is. They think their loved one is just tired or slowing down, but often that quiet distance is something deeper. It's the body and spirit beginning the long, soft work of letting go. And when she said that, something in me cracked open, because I remembered when my own grandfather stopped coming to the dinner table, when he stayed in his chair even as the baseball game came on, our favorite thing to watch together. Back then, I thought he was just worn out, but now, maybe, he was beginning his goodbye. Carla took a breath, and what she said next gave me chills. She said, "The second sign is travel." I blinked. "You mean they start planning trips?" She gently shook her head. "Not that kind of travel. They talk about going somewhere, but not in a literal way. In their words, in their dreams, in their metaphors." She told me she's had patients say things like, "I need to pack soon," or "I think I'm going on a long trip." Some ask if their passport is ready. Others want to know what time the train is coming. One man, she said, kept asking me if the train was late. He said his father was waiting for him at the station. These weren't confused ramblings. These were soft, intentional words. And Carla said it doesn't matter what they believed in, whether they were religious or not, whether they believed in heaven or nothing at all. There's a shift, she said, a spiritual awareness, and the imagery of crossing over. It just shows up, all on its own. She said it's like something in the soul knows the journey is coming. Not just rest, not just sleep, but a departure, a crossing, a going home. I sat there stunned because I remembered something my great-aunt once said. She was a quiet woman, never left her hometown, didn't own a passport. But one night, she leaned over to my mother and said, "I think the boat's coming soon." She died 3 weeks later. I'd forgotten that moment until Carla brought it back. And now, it means everything. So let me pause here and ask you something. Has anything like that ever happened to someone you love? A strange sentence, a dream, a moment that didn't make sense then, but maybe does now. If so, would you do something powerful? Just type yes in the comments. You don't have to explain, but that one word might help someone else, someone who's watching this video right now, feel a little less alone, because grief shared is grief softened. And understanding these signs can be the first step toward making peace with something that none of us are truly ready for. And if you're still with me, truly, thank you. It takes a rare kind of strength to listen to something this honest, this real. But I believe it matters. You matter. And the person you're thinking about right now, they matter too. Their story, their voice, their goodbye. It all matters. So let's keep going, because the third sign Carla told me about may be the most tender and the most difficult one of all. Carla leaned forward and took a breath, like what she was about to say next needed to be handled with care. The third sign, she told me softly, is one of the most tender things. I see. And also one of the most misunderstood. She paused for a long moment, letting the weight of her words settle. They start giving things away, she said, not because they're downsizing, not because they're trying to clean house or clear out space, but because, deep down, they know it's time. I didn't say a word, I just listened. And in that silence, I could feel the truth of what she was saying. He'll hand you a photo, Carla continued, or a book, or a piece of jewelry, and say something simple, like, "I want you to have this." And in that moment, though it may seem small, what they're really doing is passing on a part of their story. She shared a memory of a patient, a woman in her early 80s, who gave her grandson a dusty old toolbox. He thought it was just junk, Carla said. But she told him, "This belonged to your great-grandfather. He built our first home with it. I want you to fix things the way he did, with care." A week later, she was gone. Carla leaned back and gave a small, knowing smile. "It's never about the object," she said. "It's about the meaning behind it, the legacy, the message. That gift is a thread connecting generations. And when someone gives it, they're not just giving you something to keep. They're giving you something to remember." And the more I thought about it, the more I realized my own father did the same thing. Months before his stroke, he gave me his wristwatch. He didn't explain. He didn't give a speech. He just placed it in my hand and said, "Keep it running." At the time, I smiled. I didn't think much of it. But now, years later, I understand. That wasn't just a watch. It was his quiet way of telling me that time is precious, and that mine would keep going, even if his didn't. So if someone you love has been offering you old letters, forgotten mementos, little treasures from the past that seem random or unimportant, please don't brush it off. Sit with them. Ask what it means. Let them tell the story behind the object, because you might be holding their goodbye. A final message. A thread of love they don't know how else to express. Now, the fourth sign Carla described was something deeper, more spiritual, but not in the way most people expect. She said that many of her patients, even those who never stepped foot in a church or who didn't believe in anything at all, begin asking deeper questions. Soul questions, eternal questions. They start to wonder out loud, she said gently. Why are we here? What happens next? Will I see my family again? And it didn't matter if they'd spent their whole lives explaining the world through logic and science. Something would shift inside. It's not fear, Carla explained. It's wonder. It's reflection. It's the beginning of making peace with the unknown. She told me about an old Marine named James, a tough, skeptical man who always said he didn't believe in anything, didn't need God, didn't want heaven, he used to say. But one night, Carla found him sitting quietly by the window, staring up at the stars. He whispered, almost to himself. I think someone's waiting for me. He didn't say who. He didn't say where. But the look on his face, it was calm, peaceful. He passed quietly the next morning. In their final year, Carla said, people start letting go of the physical world. But not with sadness, with grace. They begin reaching for something beyond this life. And sometimes they find it. That hit me harder than I expected, because it reminded me of something simple but profound, that we are more than just bodies and breath. There's a soul inside each of us, something sacred. And long before the heart stops beating, that soul begins preparing. So if you've seen this in someone you love, if you've watched them begin to ask deeper questions, to search for meaning, to speak more softly about life and what comes after, I invite you to do something small but powerful. Just type yes in the comments. That single word can say, I've seen it too. I've felt this too. And it helps remind others, those grieving, those remembering, those quietly wondering, that they are not alone. And if this video has moved you in any way, if it's touched your heart or brought up memories you hadn't expected, please hit the like button and subscribe, not just for this channel, but for this community. A place where stories like this have room to breathe. A space where truth can be told with love and loss can be met with understanding. Now take a breath with me, because the final two signs Carla shared, they were the most unexpected. And one of them gave me chills, because I saw it happen with someone I loved, and I didn't recognize it for what it was, until now. Carla's voice grew quieter. She leaned back a little, her hands folded gently in her lap. I could tell she was about to share something sacred. She looked down for a moment, then lifted her eyes and said, softly, the fifth sign. Is that? They start seeing people no one else can. I didn't speak. I just listened, waiting. It happens more often than you'd think, she said. Sometimes it's days before someone passes. But other times, it starts much earlier. Weeks, months, a whole year even. They'll look toward an empty corner of the room and smile. Or they'll whisper softly, like they're talking to someone only they can see. She looked straight into my eyes. And almost always, it's someone they loved and lost. She told me about a man named Leonard who had lost his wife 30 years earlier. One morning, he turned to me and said, she's been standing in the doorway all night. She hasn't changed a bit. Carla smiled, not in disbelief, but in recognition. And I believed him, she said quietly, because the peace in his face said more than any proof ever could. I asked her if that scared the families. She shook her head gently. Sometimes, yes, but more often, it comforts them. Because the people who are dying, they don't seem afraid. They seem reassured, like they're being gently reminded they won't be leaving alone. She paused, letting the silence speak for a moment, then added, I've had patients call out their mother's name, their child's name, even names they never told anyone about. She looked at me and said something that I've never forgotten. The ones they loved, they come back. Not always in a way we can measure, but in a way the soul recognizes. That moment sent a chill down my spine, because when my own mother passed, just a few days before she slipped away, she looked right past me and said, Dad? Her father had died when she was only 12, but her face lit up, not with confusion, but with joy, like she was seeing him again, not just remembering. And all these years later, I finally understand what she meant. So if you've ever seen this, if someone you loved started reaching toward a corner of the room, whispering names from long ago, or smiling like someone just walked in, don't brush it off. Let it sit with you. Because maybe, just maybe, it means they weren't alone in that moment. Maybe someone who once loved them came back to walk them home. If you've ever witnessed this kind of moment, and it stirred something in your heart, type yes in the comments. That one word can bring comfort to someone else carrying the same memory. It can remind us all that love doesn't vanish. It lingers. And if this video has helped you feel seen, or if it brought you tears, or clarity, or peace, please take 1 second to like and subscribe, because this channel is more than just content. It's a space for healing, for connection, for honoring what really matters. Now, as for the sixth and final sign Carla shared, this one took my breath away, because it didn't look like sadness or spirituality at all. It looked like energy, a sudden burst in it. It's what we call the rally, Carla explained. Not everyone goes through it, But when they do, it can fool the whole family. She described how someone who had been weak for months, barely eating, barely moving, suddenly wakes up with brightness in their eyes. They sit up, they smile, they ask for food, they talk, they laugh. They say things like, "I feel good today." And the family, well, they light up. They think maybe this is a sign of healing, Carla said. They begin to hope again. She looked away briefly before continuing, her voice even softer. But most of the time, it's not recovery, it's a gift. One last surge of life. A final bloom before the soul says goodbye. I asked her why it happens. She paused. "No one really knows," she said. "Some say it's the body's last spark. Others believe it's the soul, taking one last look at everything it loves." Then she told me about a little girl named Ella. She'd been battling cancer, hadn't smiled in weeks. One afternoon, she asked to go outside. She danced barefoot in the grass, Carla whispered, just for a few minutes. Then she turned to her mother and said, "I'm ready now." She passed that night. And I'll be honest, sitting across from Carla, hearing these stories from a woman who's walked beside hundreds of final goodbyes, I realized something I hadn't understood before. Dying isn't always about fading away. Sometimes it's about one last light. One final burst of joy. A moment that says, "Don't remember me in the hospital bed. Remember me in the sunshine, in the laughter, in that smile." So if someone you knew experienced that kind of moment, a sudden energy, a spark, a return to themselves, share it with us. Just type "yes" in the comments, because your story might be the key someone else needs to understand what they saw and what it meant. And now, as all these signs come together, these quiet, sacred signals from the final year of life, I want to end by sharing what Carla said to me about what we can actually do when we begin to notice them, when we realize goodbye might be coming. I sat there in silence as Carla folded her hands in her lap and said, "You know, people always ask me, what should I do when I start to see these signs? When I realize someone I love may be nearing their final chapter? Should I say something? Should I act normal? What's the right way to say goodbye?" She looked down for a long time. When her eyes lifted, they were soft, full of years of grief, of wisdom. "You don't need perfect words," she said. "You just need to be present, fully, truly present." And then she said something I'll never forget. Something I still hear in my head, especially when I think about those I've lost. She said, "If someone you love is starting to let go, don't rush them. Don't fill the room with noise. Don't pretend it's not happening. Just be there. Hold their hand. Listen more than you speak. And when you do speak, say the real things." I asked her what she meant. "The real things," she smiled. "Tell them what they meant to you. Tell them what you learned from them, what you'll never forget. Say the things you've carried in your heart for years, and say them now while you still can." Her voice was steady, but her eyes held something deeper, the weight of too many goodbyes, where the most important words came too late. Then she shared a story I've carried with me ever since. It was about a daughter who sat beside her dying father. For weeks they hadn't spoken. Their relationship had always been distant, strained by years of unspoken hurt. But on one quiet afternoon, as he lay in bed breathing shallowly, barely responsive, she leaned down and whispered, "I forgive you. And I hope you forgive me too." He didn't open his eyes. He didn't speak, but a single tear slipped down his cheek. And in that moment, something passed between them, not in words, but in something deeper. A quiet peace, a release. "That's the power of presence," Carla said. "It's not about fixing things. It's about freeing them." She looked away for a second, then back at me, and added something I'll never forget. "Dying doesn't always mean suffering. Sometimes it's the moment when everything becomes clear, when people stop pretending and finally speak from the heart." Those words have stayed with me because I've learned they're true again and again. So if someone you love is showing these signs, if they're growing more quiet, giving treasured things away, reflecting more deeply, seeing faces you can't see, or glowing with unexpected joy in their final days, please, don't look the other way. Don't assume it's nothing. Sit with them. Hold their hand. Be still. Tell them their life mattered. Tell them what they gave you. what you'll carry forward. Tell them they were seen and loved, and that they left a mark no time can erase. Because the greatest regret isn't that someone left us. It's realizing we never said what needed to be said before they did. Carla told me something else, something that caught me off guard. She said in all her years of hospice care, the families who struggled the most after someone passed weren't the ones who cried the loudest, or broke down, or wept openly. They were the ones who didn't say what they needed to say, she told me. The ones who waited too long. And that struck me in the chest. Because I've been that person. The one who assumed there was more time. Who thought the moment wasn't quite right. Who held the words in until it was too late. So maybe that's what this video is really about. Not just recognizing the signs of the final year, but recognizing the moment we still have. The chance to show up, to speak up, to love loudly, to make peace while there's still time. Before I left, I asked Carla one last question. I asked if she ever got tired. Tired of witnessing so many goodbyes. Tired of watching so many families break and heal day after day. She smiled, not sadly, but with a kind of gentle light behind her eyes. No, she said, because every single goodbye teaches me something new about how to live. So let me ask you now, if someone in your life is showing even just one of these 6 signs, what would you say to them if today was your last chance? If that question touches something inside you, if it opens a memory or a wound or a moment you've tried not to think about, I invite you to type just one word in the comments. Yes, it may seem small, but it means everything, because it tells the rest of us that we're not alone, that what we're feeling is shared and understood. And if you feel brave enough, share your story. You never know who might need to hear it tonight. Your memory could be the one that brings comfort to a stranger still carrying grief in silence. Before this video ends, I want to ask just one more thing. Please subscribe. Not for numbers, not for growth, but for connection, for community, for more moments like this. The kind that go beyond news feeds and timelines and settle deep in the soul. Because when we talk about the end, we start to cherish the middle, the moments we used to rush through, the quiet laughter across the dinner table, the smell of someone's favorite meal, the sound of their voice down the hallway. Those are the real things, the sacred things, the ones we never realize we're living until they're gone. So thank you. Thank you for listening, for sitting with this story, for honoring the people you love, whether they've already said goodbye or are slowly beginning to. And just remember this as you go back to your day. It's not about how someone leaves. It's about how we love them while they're still here. And that, my friend, is what truly matters.